And did you authorise evacuating animals out of Kabul over people?
No, that is absolutely. This whole thing is total rhubarb. I was very proud of what our armed services did with op pitting, and it was an amazing thing to move 15,000 people out of Kabul in the way that we did. I thought it was also additionally very good that we were able to help those vets who came out as well. But I can tell you that the military.
But you didn't intervene. You
absolutely
didn't.
not. The military always prioritised human beings, and that was quite right. And I think we should be incredibly proud of op pitting and what it achieved.
Prime Minister.
Well, let's go straight to our political correspondent, Kate McCann. And we heard there, Kate, the Prime Minister saying that they'd always put people above animals. But that's not what's coming out of an email that Sky News has seen, is it?
Well, he said the military have always prioritised people over animals. And I think the actual question here is whether the Prime Minister and his office intervened in a process that would have allowed a charity team, which did include animals, but also, as the Prime Minister indicated there, included vets and other animal charity workers, to leave that country where others, including charities who were desperately trying to charter their own planes to leave the country, were unable to do so. The Prime Minister called suggestions that he'd had any intervention in that process total rhubarb. But I think there is a question about exactly what did happen here, because what we have is an MP, Trudy Harrison, who is the personal secretary, parliamentary private secretary to the Prime Minister, so a close aide of Boris Johnson, involved pretty closely in efforts to try and charter a plane to try and ensure that these Nowzad charity animals and some of the team were able to leave the country. And in the process of doing that, she made very clear to a number of companies, including one private charter company, that she did work with the Prime Minister, and she said that her boss was very keen to see that happen. Now, in emails that we've seen this morning, these are involving Virgin Atlantic, obviously a huge international airline. These are a series of emails that were sent on the 23rd and 24th of August. And the first one of those is from a pilot at the company to a senior manager at Virgin Atlantic. And it reads, "My local MP, Trudy Harrison, is PPS, Parliamentary Private Secretary to the Prime Minister, and has sought my advice this evening on the mechanics of transportation of a Mr. Farthing and his Afghan-based rescue dogs and cats, plus other evacuees from Kabul imminently." She said relevant permissions would be fast-tracked in government. Now that line, fast-tracked in government, is absolutely key, because it seems to indicate that Trudy Harrison had suggested to the airline that she was able to ensure that if a plane was arranged, it could get in and out of that country at a time, remember, when lots of people were trying to do the same and failing, that she would be able to pull that off. Now, a second email, which is from the pilot to the chief executive of Virgin Atlantic, sent the next day on the 24th of August, reads, "My local MP, Trudy Harrison, in brackets, who is Boris Johnson's PPS and works at number 10, has inquired of me yesterday evening whether we can provide transportation for Mr. Penfarthing and his rescue animals and others from Kabul. She has said the Transportation Secretary will provide whatever assistance is required. This being a government-backed situation and clearly incredibly sensitive, I trust it's in order to bring it to your attention in case you wish to deal with it personally yourself." Now, again, two things strike us in that email conversation between staff at Virgin: that Ms Harrison had reportedly said the Transport Secretary would provide whatever assistance is required, and also that this situation was government-backed. Now, that is their perception of her approach to Virgin, but I think what's really important here is this is towards the tail end of that evacuation effort. There were some very bad headlines at the time suggesting that the Prime Minister and his team were not doing enough to help these animals leave the country, and there was really a lot of pressure on government ministers, on the military, on the Defence Secretary to ensure that everybody who had the right to leave that country could do so at that time. There was a lot of pressure. You can see those scenes there, very, very desperate scenes, lots of women and children, people absolutely desperate to leave. So clearly a lot of pressure, but the suggestion from, officials in government, and a Foreign Office email, for example, also suggested that the Prime Minister had personally intervened, was that there was something going on here behind the scenes. Now, it's important to say, you heard it from Boris Johnson there, called it total rhubarb. The Number 10 have said that this is not the case, although this morning they did not deny that conversations had taken place between the Prime Minister and Trudy Harrison on this subject. Ms Harrison herself has given a statement to Sky News. She says, "I was assisting Penfarthing and Nowzad as a constituency MP in response to many Copeland constituents' requests to assist. I was contacted directly by over 40 constituents last summer asking for my support for the charity's staff and animals. As part of my efforts to help them, I reached out to a pilot in my constituency for some advice." Now, there are those who say that none of her constituents were actually directly involved in the evacuation. They question her involvement as a constituency MP. And I say, again, you know, they question the statements that were issued during those email conversations that seem to suggest that Trudy Harrison had the backing of the government. Clearly, you have both her response and Number 10's to those claims.